No alarms rang when the first ship disappeared. That was the most frightening part. The invasion fleet of the Virex Dominion filled the edge of the star system. Thousands of warships, perfectly aligned, weapons charged, crews calm and confident. They had done this many times before. Another small civilization. Another easy victory. Their enemy was weak, poor, forgotten by the galaxy. The Dominion waited for the order to advance. Then one ship went silent. Not destroyed, not damaged, just gone. At first, the commanders assumed a system error. Space was full of strange interference near old stars. Reports were delayed. Screens flickered. Nothing unusual. Then a second ship vanished. Then a third. No explosions. No debris. No energy spikes. Just empty space where massive warships had been moments before. Unease spread through the fleet. Long-range sensors showed nothing. Short-range scans showed nothing. Visual confirmation showed only darkness and distant stars. The Dominion admiral ordered a halt. That command alone sent shock through the fleet. The Dominion never stopped, never hesitated. Crews whispered in tight, fearful voices. Some spoke of ancient myths, stories told only in old academies and half-deleted archives. Legends of a species that once fought differently, quietly, patiently. The admiral dismissed the talk. There are no ghosts in space, he said, but his claws tightened on the command rail. Another ship vanished. This time, it was close enough that nearby vessels saw the space bend. Just slightly, like a ripple across black water. The admiral demanded full scans of the system. The results made no sense. The star system was old, abandoned, marked as strategically empty centuries ago. No colonies, no stations, no known species activity. Yet deep within the system, something had activated. Something ancient, far beyond the Dominion's detection range. Buried inside drifting wreckage and dead planets. Machines older than the Dominion itself came online. Power flowed through forgotten circuits. Lights ignited in the dark. A signal echoed across deep space, short, sharp, and unmistakably artificial. The signal was not a warning. It was an acknowledgement. Long ago, in another age, a small species had fled through the stars. They were hunted, broken, and desperate. The galaxy had looked away. Almost all of it. One race did not. They had shared food when they had little. Shielded human refugees with their own fleets. Died buying humanity time to escape. Humanity had never forgotten. The galaxy had. Back in the Dominion fleet, sensors finally detected something new. A single contact. One ship. It appeared without jump signatures. Without energy spikes. Without explanation. It was massive, larger than a battleship, darker than space itself. No markings. No visible weapons. No transmission codes. It simply existed. Right in the center of the fleet. Weapons locked on it instantly. Thousands of targeting systems screamed for permission to fire. The admiral stared at the image on the main display. The ship did not move. It did not flee. It did not respond. Then every Dominion system received the same message at the same time. Not an attack. Not a threat. A calm, steady voice, translated perfectly into every language. Humanity acknowledges the debt. The bridge went silent. Some officers froze. Others stepped back in fear. The admiral felt something cold crawl through his veins. Humans. That word had not been spoken in centuries. A species listed as extinct. Defeated. Irrelevant. Yet the ship remained. Waiting. And far beyond the system, unseen by any sensor, space itself began to open. Slowly. Quietly. As if reality was making room for something it had not seen in a very long time. The galaxy believed humans were gone. It was wrong. The word human spread through the Dominion fleet like a slow poison. No one spoke at first. No one moved. The massive dark ship remained at the center of the formation, silent and still, as if the fleet around it did not exist. Weapons stayed locked, yet no one gave the order to fire. Every officer felt it, the wrongness of the moment. The sense that firing first would be a mistake they would not survive. The admiral broke the silence. That species is extinct, he said, forcing strength into his voice. Purge the translation banks. This is psychological warfare. Engineers obeyed. Systems recalibrated. Databases refreshed. The word human remained. The ship still waited. Then the admiral noticed something else. The vanished ships were not random. Every lost vessel had been positioned near the edges of the formation, guarding supply lines and communication relays. No core command ships had been touched, no vital assets destroyed. It was restraint. That disturbed him more than aggression ever could. He ordered a probe launched toward the dark vessel. A small, unmanned drone, standard procedure. It drifted forward, sensors active, weapons cold. The moment it crossed an invisible boundary, the probe simply stopped existing. No debris, no explosion, nothing. The boundary did not show on sensors. It did not register as a shield or weapon field. It was as if reality itself had decided the probe did not belong beyond that point. The Admiral's confidence cracked. He ordered a full historical scan of the word human. Every archive, every forbidden record, every half-deleted file. If the species was truly extinct, there would be nothing left. The data returned fragmented, burned, corrupted, but not erased. Images flickered across the command display. Old star maps, ancient battle footage, grainy records of a species smaller and weaker than most of the galaxy. Humans. They had been refugees, driven from their homeworld by forces far stronger than them, chased from system to system. Their fleets had been crude, their weapons ineffective. Again and again, they begged for asylum. And again, the galaxy had turned away. Except for one name that appeared again and again in the records. The Illyrian Concord. A minor civilization. Poor in resources. Rich only in ideals. They had opened their borders when no one else would. Shared food they could not spare. Shielded human convoys with their own ships. The records showed the cost. Illyrian fleets destroyed. Worlds burned. Their population reduced to a fraction of what it once was. The final entry chilled the Admiral. Illyrian Concord status. Functionally extinct. The Admiral looked back at the dark ship. This is not a coincidence, he whispered. Far away, light years from the Dominion fleet, the last remnants of the Illyrian people prepared to die. Their home system burned. Enemy ships filled their skies, blotting out the stars. Cities lay in ruins. Defense platforms failed one by one. There would be no reinforcements. No miracles. The Illyrian High Council gathered in an underground chamber, ancient and scarred. Their people listened through failing networks, knowing this would be the final address. The eldest counselor spoke with a steady voice, though her heart ached. We stood for kindness, she said. If this is the end, let history remember that. A younger counselor hesitated. There is one option left, he said quietly. The chamber turned toward him. It is a myth, another replied. A story from old cycles. Stories are all we have left, the young one said. With shaking hands, he activated a device no one believed still worked. It was ancient, its design crude and unfamiliar. A gift given centuries ago by frightened refugees. Humans. The signal was simple. Weak. Easy to miss. It was not a plea for rescue. It was a statement. We remember. The signal vanished into the void. The council waited. Nothing happened. Moments passed. Then the stars themselves seemed to pause. Back in the Dominion fleet, alarms finally began to scream. Not weapons alarms. Navigation alarms. Space around the dark ship shifted. Distances warped. Known constants failed. The laws of physics, trusted for millennia, began to bend. The Admiral demanded reports. Officers shouted numbers that made no sense. Energy readings without sources. Gravitational distortions without mass. Then a second signal arrived. Not local. Galactic. It spread across communication networks faster than light, bypassing relays, firewalls, and encryption as if they did not exist. Every major power received it. Every minor civilization felt it. The same calm voice spoke again. Debt confirmed. That was all. Across the galaxy, ancient systems awakened. Human systems. Hidden beneath moons labeled barren. Inside asteroids marked as debris. Within stars declared unstable and ignored. No one had noticed them because no one had been looking for them. Humanity had learned long ago that survival required patience. Observers across the galaxy watched in horror as regions of space, once thought empty, came alive with impossible movement. Fleets appeared where no jump lanes existed. Shipyards unfolded from within hollowed planets. The scale was wrong. This was not the work of a species rebuilding from near extinction. This was preparation. Back in the Illyrian system, as enemy ships closed in for the final strike, sensors flickered back to life. Illyrian technicians stared at their screens in disbelief. Incoming signatures. Thousands. No, tens of thousands. They were not Illyrian ships. They were not Dominion ships. They were something else entirely. The first human vessel emerged from distorted space above the burning world. Its hull reflected starlight like polished obsidian. It moved with impossible grace, as if the vacuum welcomed it. Enemy weapons fired instinctively. The shots vanished before impact. Then more human ships arrived. And more. They formed a shield around the planet. Not firing, not threatening, just existing, impenetrable. A single transmission echoed through the Illyrian command chamber. Translated instantly. "We are late," the voice said. Silence followed. Then, but not too late. Across the galaxy, fear replaced disbelief. Humanity was not extinct. Humanity had been waiting. And now, a debt was being repaid. One the galaxy had forgotten, but humans never had. The galaxy did not panic all at once. At first, leaders denied what their sensors showed. Fleets appearing without jump signatures. Human ships ignoring known physics. Entire regions of space lighting up with activity where nothing had existed for centuries. Denial was easier than truth. Because the truth was simple and terrifying. Humanity had not survived by hiding. Humanity has evolved. In the Illyrian system, the sky was no longer burning. Enemy ships hung frozen in space, their weapons locked, their engines silent. They were not disabled by force. No visible damage marked their hulls. It was as if an unseen hand had reached into their machines and told them to stop. The Illyrian people watched from shattered cities and underground shelters, afraid to breathe. Many had never seen a human. Others remembered them only as stories, weak refugees with fragile ships and desperate eyes. The human vessels above them were nothing like those memories. They were vast, clean, purposeful, and quiet. Inside the lead human ship, no cheers echoed, no victory cries. Officers moved calmly through softly lit corridors. This was not a moment of triumph. It was a correction. A human commander stood before a panoramic display of the system. His hair was streaked with gray. His uniform carried no symbols of rank, only a single mark on the shoulder, a simple circle, unbroken. He watched the enemy fleet with steady eyes. "Status," he said. "Containment complete," an officer replied. "No hostile capability remains. Illyrian planet shielded. Casualty projections minimized." The commander closed his eyes for a brief moment. "Too many still died," he said quietly. No one argued. On the Illyrian homeworld, a human shuttle descended through the atmosphere. It did not land in a palace or military zone. It touched down among ruins, near a broken medical complex overwhelmed with wounded. The hatch opened. A human stepped out, unarmed. He wore no armor, no visible defenses, just a simple uniform and a small device at his wrist. Illyrian guards raised weapons out of instinct, then hesitated. The human stopped several paces away and lowered his head. "We are humanity," he said, his voice carried by translators into the Illyrian language. "We came because you once saved us." The guards did not move. The human looked around at the destruction. Injured. At the dead. "We failed to come sooner," he continued. "That failure is ours." An Illyrian medic stepped forward, shaking. "Why?" she asked. "Why us?" The human met her gaze. "Because when the galaxy abandoned us," he said, "you did not." Above them, the enemy fleet remained frozen, helpless witnesses. Across the stars, governments finally stopped denying reality. Emergency councils convened. Ancient treaties were dusted off. Fear replaced arrogance as leaders realized something worse than invasion had occurred. Judgment. Human transmissions began appearing everywhere. Always the same message, always calm. No threats. No demands. No lies. They explained what humanity had become after its near extinction. They had retreated not to hide, but to learn. They had studied every war the galaxy ever fought. Every failure. Every cruelty. Every excuse used to justify it. They learned patience. They learned restraint. They learned how to win without destroying everything. Human fleets did not conquer worlds. They erased the ability to wage war. Shipyards vanished overnight. Weapon factories shut down without explosions. Military command networks collapsed as if they had never existed. Civilian systems were untouched. The message was clear. Humanity was not punishing species. Humanity was ending behaviors. In the Dominion core systems, panic finally erupted. Their fleets, once the terror of entire sectors, were powerless. Human containment fields locked them in place wherever they were found. Dominion commanders screamed orders that went unanswered. The Dominion High Council demanded communication. For the first time in their history, humanity responded immediately. A human representative appeared on every Dominion screen at once. He did not sit above them. He did not loom. He stood at eye level. "You will stand down," he said. The council protested, threatened, promised retaliation. The human listened patiently. Then he raised his wrist. Every Dominion warship lost power simultaneously. Every weapon went dark. Every engine fell silent. The council chamber trembled as their city lost gravity for a brief, controlled moment, just long enough for them to feel helpless. Then it returned. The human spoke again. "This is mercy," he said. "Do not confuse it with weakness." The transmission ended. No negotiations followed. The Dominion surrendered within the hour. But the galaxy's fear did not fade. Because humanity did not take control. They did not occupy worlds. They did not install rulers. They did not demand tribute. They simply left behind observers, silent, watchful, unignorable. In the Illyrian system, reconstruction began immediately. Human technology repaired cities in days. Atmosphere stabilizers restored poisoned skies. Medical systems cured diseases Illyrian science had never solved. Yet the humans refused praise. "We are not heroes," the gray-haired commander told the Illyrian council. "We are debtors." The eldest counselor studied him carefully. "You could rule the galaxy," she said. "No one could stop you." The commander shook his head. "We tried ruling once," he replied. "Long ago, in our own world. It nearly destroyed us." He looked out at the stars. "We exist to remember," he continued, "and to intervene only when memory demands it." As human fleets withdrew from contested systems, something unexpected happened. The galaxy began to change itself. Species dismantled their own weapons out of fear or respect. Old grudges were paused. Wars delayed. Alliances reconsidered. Because everyone understood the same truth now. Humanity was watching. And humanity remembered everything. In the quiet that followed, as human ships faded back into the dark between stars, a single question spread across countless worlds. If this was what humans did for a single act of kindness, what would they do for betrayal? The galaxy did not know the answer, and that uncertainty was more frightening than any weapon humanity possessed. The galaxy did not sleep. Across thousands of worlds, nights passed without rest as leaders, scholars, soldiers, and civilians all stared at the same question from different angles. Why had humans waited so long? They could have stopped the Dominion years ago, decades ago, centuries ago. The power they revealed was not new. It was refined, controlled, mature, which meant one thing. Humanity had chosen the moment. That thought unsettled even the bravest species. In the Illyrian system, reconstruction continued under human supervision. But the humans did not command. They requested. They did not give orders. They offered choices. That alone confused the Illyrians. The gray-haired human commander walked through a restored city plaza. The buildings were healed, but the scars remained. Cracks left untouched. Memorials preserved exactly where people had fallen. An Illyrian counselor walked beside him. "You could erase the damage," she said softly. "Make it as if the war never happened." The commander nodded. "We could. Why don't you?" "Because forgetting is how this happens again." He stopped near a monument newly raised. It listed names, millions of them. "Pain remembered becomes wisdom," he continued. "Pain erased becomes repetition." The counselor studied him carefully. "You speak as if this lesson cost you everything." The commander did not answer right away. Instead, he looked up at the sky, where human ships still watched silently. "It did," he said. "Far from the Illyrian system, deep within human-controlled space, something ancient stirred. Not a fleet, not a weapon, a memory. In a hidden archive built into a dead star's gravity well, records older than most civilizations were opened again. Not for strategy, not for war, for judgment. Humanity's leaders gathered, not physically, but through a shared neural link spanning light years. They were not politicians, not generals. They were historians. Each carried the burden of human memory. Every betrayal, every kindness, every extinction humanity had witnessed or suffered. The Illyrian rescue was not the end of the protocol. It was the beginning. A voice echoed through the link. The debt is being repaid, one historian said. But the galaxy is watching how we do it. Another replied, they fear conquest. They should fear neglect, a third answered. Neglect is what allowed this cycle to repeat. Silence followed. Then the eldest spoke. We intervene only where debt exists, she said, and where cruelty threatens to erase memory. A new data stream opened. Another system, another invasion, another civilization on the brink. This one had never met humans. But they had harmed the Illyrians once, long ago. Supplied weapons, closed borders, profited from suffering. The historians did not vote. They remembered. In the outer spiral arm, a warlord empire known for slave fleets celebrated its recent expansion. Their leaders laughed as news arrived that the Dominion had fallen. They believed the humans would never reach them. They were wrong. Human ships appeared without announcement, not in attack formation, but in orbit over every major war world at once. The warlords panicked. Fleets scrambled. Weapons fired. Nothing happened. Human containment fields froze every ship mid-launch. Then the transmissions began. Not threats. Records. Images of Illyrian refugees turned away at gunpoint. Logs of bribes paid for silence. Slave manifests bearing Illyrian names. The warlords shouted excuses. Claimed ignorance. Blamed history. The human response was immediate. We do not punish ignorance, the voice said calmly. We punish choices. Entire shipyards folded into themselves, crushed by controlled gravity. Slave collars deactivated across thousands of worlds. Camps opened as gates dissolved into dust. The warlords themselves were not killed. They were taken, vanished. No one ever learned where. The galaxy trembled, not because of destruction, but because of precision. Humanity was not waging war. Humanity was enforcing memory. Back in the Illyrian system, a young Illyrian child stood beside a human engineer, watching machines rebuild a bridge. Are you gods? The child asked. The human knelt, lowering himself to eye level. No, he said gently. We tried that once. It ended badly. Then what are you? The human considered the question. We are witnesses, he said. And sometimes reminders. As days passed, something unexpected happened. Human ships began leaving. One by one, they faded into deep space, leaving behind restored worlds and silent observers embedded into asteroid belts and stars. The Illyrians felt fear again, not of humans, but of being alone. The council requested a final meeting. Will you stay? The eldest asked. The gray-haired commander shook his head. If we stay, he said, you will never truly be free. And freedom means choosing kindness even when we are not watching. Will you come back? She asked. He met her gaze. If you are ever threatened again, he said, we will already be on our way. That answer both comforted and frightened her. Across the galaxy, debates erupted. Some civilizations dismantled their militaries overnight. Others accelerated weapons research in secret, desperate to match human power. Human observers noted everything. They did not interfere. Not yet. Because humanity did not fear weapons. They feared what came after memory faded. In a quiet moment, aboard the lead human vessel as it prepared to leave Illyrian space, an officer approached the commander. Sir, she said, we've received a message. From where? The officer hesitated. From one of the old human colonies, she said. One we sealed off long ago. The commander stiffened. That world was quarantined, he said. No contact for centuries. Yes, sir, the officer replied. But they activated an internal beacon. The message appeared on the display. Short. Simple. 3 words. They remember too. The commander exhaled slowly. Humanity had not been alone in the dark. Fragments of their past, colonies lost, cut off, forgotten even by humanity itself, were awakening. And not all memories were gentle. He turned toward the stars. Prepare the historians, he said quietly. The next phase begins. Far away, in regions even human maps marked with caution, old human symbols lit up again. Not all debts were about kindness. Some were about survival. And some were about sins humanity had never forgiven itself for committing. The galaxy believed it had seen humanity's strength. It had not yet seen humanity's guilt. The human fleets did not rush toward the signal. That alone unsettled the galaxy. When the message, they remember too, spread through human command networks, no alarms sounded. No emergency protocols triggered. Ships did not change course. Observers continued watching their assigned systems. From the outside, it looked like hesitation. From the inside, it was restraint. Because the sealed colony was not unknown to humanity, it was avoided. The world had once been called Havenfall, founded during humanity's darkest era, when survival mattered more than ethics, and hope was something rationed carefully. It was meant to be a sanctuary for human minds too dangerous, too altered, or too damaged to live among the rest. Brilliant scientists who crossed lines. Soldiers rebuilt after battles no one recorded. Children born under experimental gravity, radiation, and neural augmentation. Havenfall was not a prison. It was an apology. Humanity had sealed it off when the war for survival ended. Supplies were automated. Contact was forbidden. Memory archived and locked. No one expected a beacon. Now it pulsed steadily from a region of space, even human maps labeled "Do Not Approach." In the shared neural link, the historians gathered again. This time, there was no debate. The eldest spoke first. "We promised never to erase our mistakes," she said. "We buried this one instead." A younger historian responded, voice tight. "If Havenfall is awake, then the isolation fails. They evolved without us. Or suffered," another added. Silence followed. Finally, the eldest gave the order. "One ship," she said. "No fleet. No weapons active. We go as witnesses." The galaxy watched as a single human vessel changed course. Rumors spread faster than light. Some civilizations believed humanity was turning inward, fracturing. Others feared this unseen threat was something even humans could not control. The truth was worse. Havenfall was not hostile. I was disappointed. As the human ship approached, sensors struggled. The planet's orbit was crowded with structures. Massive, asymmetrical constructs grown rather than built. They radiated controlled energy, layered with technologies humanity recognized, and others it did not. The planet spoke first. Not with words. With memory. Human systems are flooded with recorded experiences, raw, unfiltered. Children growing up under artificial suns. Bodies altered to survive poison atmospheres. Minds expanded to process pain as data, fear as fuel, and abandonment. Centuries of it. A transmission followed. The voice was human, but altered, layered, calm in a way that made the listeners uneasy. "We remember," it said. "You left us to keep the rest of you clean." The commander aboard the ship felt the words strike deeper than any weapon. "We did," he replied. "And we were wrong." The response came instantly. "You were afraid," the voice said. "So were we. The difference is, we adapted." The constructs around the planet shifted, not aggressively, but inquisitively. "Why have you returned now?" the voice asked. The commander did not lie. "Because the galaxy is breaking," he said. "And because you are part of us, whether we deserve that or not." There was a pause. Then laughter. Soft. Bitter. "You came to ask for help," the voice said. "No," the commander replied. "We came to ask for forgiveness." That surprised even the historians listening. Forgiveness had never been part of the protocol. Havenfall's reply was slow. "Forgiveness," it said, "is not free." Across the galaxy, something changed. Observers reported subtle shifts. Human containment fields adjusted. Surveillance tightened, not outward, but inward. Humanity was not preparing for war. It was preparing for accountability. Havenfall revealed what it had become. Not monsters. Not gods. Something in between. They had mastered biological engineering beyond humanity's ethical limits. They had reshaped themselves to endure extremes, to think faster, to feel less pain, or more, depending on necessity. They had built defenses not to attack the galaxy, but to ensure they would never be abandoned again. "You fear us," the voice said. "You always did." "We feared what we might become," the commander answered. "And we still do." That honesty mattered. Havenfall made an offer. "We will not leave our system," the voice said. "We will not rule. We will not punish. But if the galaxy burns again, if memory fades, we will act. Not as guardians. As consequences." The historians felt the weight of that promise. Unchecked, Havenfall could become the very thing humanity tried to prevent. But denying them would repeat the sin. The eldest historian spoke. "Then you will act only when we fail," she said. "And we will never forget that failure." The agreement was sealed. No treaty. No signatures. Just shared memories. When the human ship departed Havenfall, the galaxy exhaled, without knowing why. But humanity did. They had reopened a wound and chosen not to close it. Elsewhere, consequences continued. Former warlords disappeared into human custody, not prisons, but reconstruction zones. They were forced to confront the effects of their choices, not through punishment, but through exposure to suffering they had caused. Some broke, some changed, some did not. Humanity did not need them all to learn, only enough. In the Illyrian system, the gray-haired commander prepared to leave orbit. The planet was healing. Its people are rebuilding. The Illyrian counselor joined him one last time. The galaxy fears you, she said. He nodded. Good. They also trust you, she added. He hesitated. That is more dangerous. Why? Because trust fades faster than fear, he said. And when it does, memory follows. As the ship powered up, a final message spread quietly through human networks. A reminder. Guardianship is not ownership. Memory is not controlled. Power is not permission. Humanity was walking a narrow line between protection and domination, between remembrance and obsession. The galaxy had underestimated humans once. Now it wondered if humanity underestimated itself. Far beyond known space, unseen by all but Havenfall's distant sensors, something ancient shifted. Not human, not alien. A force that had watched cycles rise and fall, now noticing that one species remembered too much. And memory, when sharp enough, could cut even the universe itself. The next reckoning would not be about debt. It would be about restraint, and whether humanity could remain what it claimed to be. Not rulers, not gods, but witnesses who knew when to stop. The test did not come with a warning. It never did. Across the galaxy, life continued under a fragile calm. Trade resumed. Borders reopened. Fleets stayed docked. Species spoke carefully, choosing words the way one chooses steps across thin ice. Human observers watched silently. Some civilizations believed the danger had passed. Others believed humanity would intervene forever. Both were wrong. The spark came from a place too small to matter, or so the galaxy thought. A minor border world. No strategic value. No ancient history. Barely noted in any archive. Its people lived simply, mining asteroids and farming artificial valleys beneath a weak sun. They were peaceful. That was why they were targeted. A regional power, one that had quietly rebuilt its military after dismantling it for show, decided the risk was acceptable. Human attention was focused elsewhere. The observers in that sector were few. The invasion began quickly. Orbital strikes. Communication blackouts. Ground forces deployed with ruthless efficiency. Within hours, cities burned. The galaxy noticed, but did nothing. Old habits returned faster than anyone expected. In the human observation network, alerts appeared. Red indicators pulsed softly, not screaming, not urgent. Confirmed aggression. Civilian casualties rising. No prior debt recorded. The last line mattered most. Humanity had intervened before because of memory, because of kindness owed, cruelty witnessed, promises made. This world had never met humans. There was no debt. In the shared neural link, the historians gathered again. Their presence felt heavier now, as if each carried more weight than before. The cycle resumes, one said quietly. Another responded, if we intervene everywhere, we become rulers. And if we do nothing, a third added, we become accomplices. Silence followed. The eldest historian closed her eyes. This is the test, she said. Not of our power, of our restraint. The debate was not loud. It did not need to be. Every human present carried the same fear, that stepping in would erase free will, and stepping back would erase conscience. Then a new data stream appeared. From Havenfall, the altered human voice entered the link without invitation. You are hesitating, it said. Yes, the eldest replied. Because this is not our debt. No, Havenfall answered. It is your memory. The historians bristled. You would have us intervene everywhere, one said sharply. You would turn us into tyrants. Havenfall's response was calm. No, it said. We would have you be honest about what you are now. The image of the burning world hovered between them. Once, Havenfall continued, you were victims. Then you became guardians. Now you are something else. The galaxy reacts to you even when you do nothing. The eldest historian opened her eyes. That is exactly why we must be careful. Havenfall did not argue. It simply asked one question. If this world dies, it said, will you remember it forever? The silence that followed was answer enough. The decision was made, not unanimously, but deliberately. Humanity would not deploy fleets. Humanity would not freeze ships or dismantle armies. Instead, they would speak. A single human envoy vessel entered the system, small, clearly marked, unarmed. The invading forces laughed when they detected it. Their commanders demanded surrender, threatened annihilation. The human envoy did not respond. It descended to the surface, landing amid ruins, smoke still rising from shattered homes. The envoy stepped out alone. He walked through destruction without shielding, without guards. Civilians stared at him in disbelief. Soldiers aimed weapons, but did not fire, uncertain. The envoy activated a broadcast, local only. He did not accuse. He did not threaten. He told a story. He spoke of humanity's past, of weakness, of being ignored, of being crushed while the galaxy watched and debated restraint. He described the cost of indifference, not in numbers, but in names, in faces, in memories that never faded. You believe this world is small, he said. So did everyone who ignored us. The invading commanders ordered his execution. The order did not complete. Their command systems locked, not by force, but by refusal. Human code, ancient and subtle, embedded long ago in shared galactic infrastructure, simply denied the request. The envoy looked up at the sky. This is your moment, he said to the invaders. Leave, and this ends here. Some laughed. Others hesitated. Then Havenfall acted. Not with ships. With information. Every screen in the system, military, civilian, personal, lit up with the same feed. Not propaganda. Consequences. Projected outcomes of the invasion. Economic collapse. Civil unrest. Long-term extinction probabilities. And one final projection. Human non-intervention scenario. It was short. It showed the world burning. Then it showed something worse. Memory. Every species is watching. Every archive updated. Every human observer recording the choice made here. The invaders understood. This was not a threat of violence. It was a promise of remembrance. The invasion stalled. Troops withdrew. Ships retreated under the pretense of strategic reassessment. The world survived, damaged, scarred, but alive. The galaxy reacted immediately. Some praised humanity's restraint. Others accused them of manipulation. Both were correct. In the aftermath, the historians convened once more. We interfered, one said. Yes, the eldest replied. But we did not decide for them. We showed them themselves. And Havenfall, another asked. The altered voice entered the link again. You chose restraint, it said. That matters. For now, the eldest replied. Havenfall did not deny it. Across the galaxy, reactions diverged. Some worlds strengthened ethical councils. Others raced to shield their systems from human observation. A few attempted to erase records, to hide choices before memory could catch them. They failed. Human memory did not rely on visibility. It relied on patterns. In the Illyrian system, the gray-haired commander received reports of the incident. He stood alone on the observation deck, watching stars drift past. An officer approached. Do you think we did the right thing? She asked. He did not answer immediately. Once, he said slowly, we thought strength meant stopping every blow. Then we learned it meant choosing which blows to stop. He turned to her. The hard part, he continued, is living with the ones you don't. Far away, Havenfall watched too. Their constructs shifted, adapting, learning. They did not disapprove of humanity's choice. They studied it. Because restraint, they knew, was harder than domination. And harder still was consistency. The galaxy had tested humanity's memory. Humanity had answered, not with fire, but with reflection. It would not always be enough. And everyone, human and otherwise, felt it. The next test would not be small. It would not be quiet. And it would force humanity to decide whether restraint was still possible when the cost was everything they had sworn to protect. The warning came too late. By the time human observers confirmed the data, the damage had already begun, not in one system, not in one sector, but across dozens at the same time. It was coordinated. Too coordinated. Entire stars went dark as power grids collapsed. Trade lanes failed. Navigation beacons vanished. Worlds that relied on interstellar support found themselves suddenly isolated, blind, and afraid. This was not an invasion. This was sabotage on a galactic scale. In human observation networks, patterns emerged quickly. The strikes avoided military targets. They hit infrastructure, memory centers, archives, cultural repositories. Someone was not trying to conquer the galaxy. They were trying to erase it. The historians gathered instantly. The shared neural link felt strained, as if the weight of what they were seeing pressed against the limits of thought itself. This is deliberate, one said. Someone is attacking memory. And not randomly, another added. They know where it hurts. The eldest historian did not speak at first. She studied the incoming streams, burned libraries, collapsed data vaults, entire species losing records of their own origins. Then she said the words no one wanted to hear. This is a challenge. Across the galaxy, panic spread. Worlds that had lived cautiously under human observation now screamed for help. Others accused humanity of failure. A few whispered the unthinkable, that perhaps humans were no longer enough. In the shadows between stars, the architects of the attack finally revealed themselves. They were not new. They were ancient. An intelligence older than most civilizations. One that had watched cycles repeat until boredom turned into contempt. It had seen species rise, record their histories, and then weaponize those histories against each other. It had drawn a conclusion long ago. Memory was the problem, so it sought to remove it. The intelligence did not fear humanity's weapons. It did not even fear Havenfall. What it feared was precedent. A galaxy where memory mattered was a galaxy that could resist inevitability. And inevitability was its domain. The first direct message arrived without translation. It was understood anyway. You preserve pain, the intelligence said. We erase it. Human channels filled with debate instantly. This is beyond restraint, one historian said. They are committing cultural extinction. And if we respond with force, another countered, we prove their argument, that memory leads only to endless conflict. The intelligence struck again before the debate could settle. An Illyrian archive world, home to records of their entire species, was targeted next. The message was clear. This was personal. In the Illyrian system, alarms rang for the first time since Reconstruction began. Civilians fled toward shelters as human observers reported incoming distortions, attacks that bent space itself, bypassing conventional defenses. The gray-haired commander watched the projections with a clenched jaw. They chose the wrong symbol, he said. Human fleets did not deploy. Instead, something else happened. Across the galaxy, human observers switched modes. Passive monitoring ended. Active engagement began. Not with weapons, with exposure. Every civilization received a transmission. Human, Illyrian, and dozens of others, layered together. Not commands. No warnings. Stories. Unfiltered histories of species long forgotten. Acts of kindness that never made it into treaties. Crimes buried under progress. Sacrifices erased by convenience. The galaxy was flooded with memory. The intelligence reacted immediately. It tried to shut the transmissions down. It failed. Human systems were not centralized. Memory had been decentralized deliberately, scattered across minds, cultures, and independent networks. You could not destroy it without destroying everything. The intelligence spoke again, this time with irritation. You are accelerating the cycle, it said. Pain will multiply. Yes, the eldest historian replied calmly. But so will understanding. The intelligence shifted tactics. It reached toward Havenfall. It had avoided that system until now, aware of the unpredictable evolution there. But desperation overrode caution. Havenfall felt the intrusion immediately. Their constructs flared to life. Defensive geometries unfolded around their world. The altered voice entered the human link, sharper than before. This one is ours, it said. Do not interfere. The eldest historian hesitated. If you act, she warned, you will cross the line we agreed upon. Havenfall's reply was immediate. That line was drawn when you abandoned us, it said. We honored it. Now we choose. For the first time since humanity's return, a fleet moved without restraint. Havenfall ships, unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, emerged from distorted space. They did not form lines or formations. They moved like thought itself, unpredictable and overwhelming. They did not attack civilizations. They attacked the intelligence directly. Space fractured where their weapons struck, not explosions, but absences. Entire constructs of the intelligence unraveled, stripped of coherence, erased not physically but conceptually. The intelligence screamed, not in pain, but in outrage. You would become monsters, it accused. Havenfall's response was cold. We already were, it said. You were just too late to notice. Humanity watched in silence. They did not stop Havenfall. They did not assist. They recorded. The battle did not last long. The intelligence retreated, not destroyed, but wounded, forced to withdraw beyond the reach of even its own understanding. The galaxy survived, but the cost was heavy. Entire regions were left destabilized. Some archives were lost forever. Some cultures would never fully recover. In the aftermath, the galaxy turned its attention to humanity, not with fear this time, but with expectation. Why had they allowed Havenfall to act? Why had they not intervened directly? The historians convened for the longest session in human history. We failed, one said, on both sides of restraint. Yes, the eldest replied, and we will remember that failure. What about Havenfall? Another asked. They crossed the line. They did, she agreed. And so did the galaxy, when it pretended memory was optional. The altered voice entered the link one final time. We did what you could not, Havenfall said. We will return to isolation now. For how long? The eldest asked. Until you call us again, Havenfall replied. Or until memory fades. The link closed. Across the galaxy, rebuilding began once more, but this time, differently. Species did not simply restore archives. They shared them. Joint memory vaults were built. Cultural exchange accelerated. Painful histories were taught openly instead of buried. Human observers remained, but now, they were often invited. The gray-haired commander stood on the observation deck, watching a newly lit star where darkness had been. An officer approached him quietly. Do you think the galaxy has learned? She asked. He considered the question carefully. No, he said, but I think it has started remembering why it should. He turned back to the stars. And that, he added, is the most dangerous beginning of all. Far away, beyond the edge of mapped space, the wounded intelligence watched too. It had not been defeated, only delayed, and it had learned something new. Humanity would not always choose restraint, but when it did not, it would remember exactly why. The final test was coming, not one of debt, not one of memory, but of identity. The galaxy did not celebrate its survival. There were no grand ceremonies, no declarations of victory. Too much had been lost, and too much had nearly been erased. Entire cultures were rebuilding their histories from fragments, sharing memories like precious fuel in a cold universe. And at the center of it all stood humanity, not as rulers, not as saviors, but as something far more unsettling, a species that is remembered. The wounded intelligence had withdrawn beyond known space, but its absence did not bring peace. It brought silence, the kind that made civilizations look inward and ask questions they had avoided for millennia. Why did they fight? Why did they forget? And why had it taken humans, once the weakest of them all, to force the galaxy to remember? Human observers remained, but their presence had changed. They no longer watched only for violence. They watched for patterns of neglect, for early signs of memory fading again. Because humanity had finally accepted a truth it could no longer avoid. Debt was never just about kindness received. Debt was about responsibility earned. In the shared neural link, the historians gathered one final time. Not in crisis, not in fear, in resolution. We can't keep reacting, one said. The galaxy is too large, too complex, and we can't withdraw, another added. We've changed it simply by existing. The eldest historian listened, then spoke. Then we do what we should have done from the beginning, she said. We stop being the answer. Silence followed. That sounds like abandonment, someone said carefully. No, she replied. It sounds like trust. The plan was not announced to the galaxy. It was demonstrated. Human fleets began to withdraw, not completely, but deliberately. Observers deactivated in stable regions. Containment systems were handed over to joint councils made of multiple species. Human technology was shared, but not gifted blindly. It came with memory archives attached. Every system learned not just how to use it, but why it existed, and what had gone wrong before. Humanity stopped being the wall. They became the foundation. In the Illyrian system, the final human ship prepared to depart. The world was alive again, cities rebuilt, skies clear, people walking without fear. The gray-haired commander stood with the Illyrian counselor at the edge of the spaceport. You're really leaving, she said. Yes, he replied. For good. He shook his head. For real. She smiled sadly. What's the difference? For good means we decide when to return, he said. For real means you decide when you don't need us. She looked up at the ship, then back at him. You changed the galaxy, she said. No, he corrected gently. The galaxy changed itself. We just reminded it of what it already knew. She hesitated, then asked the question that had weighed on her since the beginning. Why us? She asked again. Why did humans remember us, when the galaxy forgot you? The commander answered without hesitation. Because when we were nothing, he said, you treated us like we mattered. The ship lifted off, silent and smooth, disappearing into the dark between stars. Across the galaxy, similar moments played out. Human ships leaving. Observers shutting down. Responsibility returning to those who lived with the consequences. Some civilizations panicked, begging humans to stay. Humanity refused. Others rose to the challenge, forming alliances not built on fear, but on shared memory. Those alliances endured. Havenfall remained silent. Watching. Waiting. They had not rejoined humanity, nor had they vanished. They existed as a reminder of what humans could become if fear ever outweighed conscience again. Humanity did not try to control them. That, too, was a choice. Years passed, then decades, then centuries. The galaxy did not become peaceful, but I became careful. Wars still happened, but they were shorter, rarer, often stopped by neighboring species before humanity ever needed to notice. Memory had become a shared burden, and that was exactly what humans had hoped for. In time, human worlds themselves began to fade back into obscurity, not erased, just quiet, content to exist without being the center of attention. Until one day, far beyond the old borders, a young civilization discovered something in the ruins of an ancient battlefield. A human marker. Simple. Weathered. It carried no warning. No threat. Just a message, translated slowly into their language. Someone once helped us when we were weak. We never forgot. Remember this place. The young species did not understand at first, but they kept the marker. They told their children about it. And when those children grew, they told others. Because stories, once remembered, had power. Far away, in a quiet human world, the gray-haired commander, older now, no longer commanding, stood beneath an open sky. An apprentice historian walked beside him. Do you think the galaxy will forget again? She asked. He smiled faintly. Of course, he said. That's what time does. Then why did we try so hard? He looked up at the stars. Because forgetting isn't failure, he said. Forgetting is natural. Refusing to remember, that's the danger. She nodded slowly. And if it happens again? Then someone will remind them, he said. Who? He met her eyes. Anyone who remembers. The camera pulls back, past the planet, past the stars, past the quiet lanes of a galaxy still learning. Humanity no longer stands at its center, but its echo does. Not as fearful, not as power, but as a lesson burned into history. When humans repaid their